Welcome. So we're going to go straight to it. Welcome. So we're going to go straight to it. We're going to start out with the Lakota prophecy of the white calf buffalo woman. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly. And the prophecy. And then I'm going to talk about what's been going on the planet. And then we'll go from there. So the white calf buffalo woman, the prophecy is that when we start seeing the birthing of white calves, which we've been seeing, I would say a good amount, that the ancient wisdoms, the lost ancient wisdom, they're telling me to say 5D, the ancient wisdom of lost ancient wisdom, they're telling me to say 5D, the ancient wisdom of 5D. How many times have I said to you in the last, say, 6 weeks, that when you have a hard time visualizing 5D, I remind you again and again that we have lived on this planet in 5D. When Atlantis fell, we did not all plummet into 3D. For Atlantis, that was true. And many who escaped across the continents, newly formed continents, because of the deluge, held portals of 5D, which would have included the Native American people, from Canada, into the North Americas, and the indigenous people into the South America. Buffalo woman, this beautiful deesse, goddess, is her coming back to remind us of the ancient ways of the kind of lives we once lived, in sovereignty over our bodies. Must I remind you that during the lockdown, many people were not sovereign over their bodies. They were being forced with swords over their heads of losing their job, losing custody of their children. And so many people were forced. So white calf buffalo woman comes in, and she's walking softly, beautifully, with flowers and feathers in her hair to bring a 5D consciousness. I'd like you to follow me on YouTube because I'm getting shadow banned on TikTok, but most importantly, I want you to understand how 5D is not a match to gender wars. It is not a match to racism. It is not a match to racism. It is not a match to cultural wars, nor religious wars. It's not a match, and that should be obvious to anyone on the spiritual path. This should be a no-brainer. And some of the tactics going on right now is exactly what I just mentioned. All the things that do not connect us to 5D, or every single thing I've just said, everything. And the Hopi prophecy, Ruth Montgomery talked about it also, but she didn't talk about the Hopi prophecy. Ruth Montgomery, which no one talks about, which is still shocking to me, was an incredible channeler from the and she talks about the beige race, or the race of the multiracial. And I mean, if we understand that life began in Africa, you shouldn't freak out anyway. You know, and we all know that we are the origins. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, from that source. And that should, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, from that source. And that should, and if you're having a hard time with that, then I beseech you to sit in meditation. And I'm going to ask you, do you know that you were a man in a past life? Do you know that you were a woman in a past life? Do you know that you were gay? That you made love to men if you were a man? You've done that before. And vice versa. And on it goes. So this should be like nonchalant to you, all these concepts. And when you look at this avatar that is now the form, your personality, again, go to chapter 3 in Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul. Who are you? Or Eckhart Tolle's The Power Now, the me and the I and the me. the witness that you witnessing you. When you go unhinged, when you do right action, you actually will hear or feel this energy watching you, and you know it's you watching you in action. So, I mean, these things should be like by now, right? Nonchalant facts. You shouldn't even be second guessing any of that shit, okay? But the Hopi prophecy about the rainbow warriors, also known as the rainbow children, where all races walk together. It was interesting because we saw a microcosm during the civil rights movement when Martin Luther King was walking with all creeds, all races were walking to bring freedom to Black people in America, former slaves, the descendants of slaves, many of them, not all, but many. And who walked with them were also Jewish people, white people, Hispanic people, Native American people, all people, because this fight wasn't a fight. It was a march for peace and unity. And I remember the commercials in the 1970s where you would see, Black people having Thanksgiving with white people and different races of people, Chinese people, Japanese people. It was it was like they were really working very, very hard to normalize integration of races, because Roe had prohibited that. Your homework this weekend is to watch The Green Book with Vigor Mortensen, who is the king or I forgot his name because I like Lord of the Rings, but I'm not an aficionado of Lord of the Rings. But he's one of the main characters in Lord of the Rings. And Vigor Mortensen plays a man who's hired for a season to drive a Black man through what I would call, the South. And the Green Book was a book where Black motorists would know where were the sundown towns, what hotels they could stay at safely. Billie Holiday, when she would tour in that part of the country, would quite, this is where she came. I mean, this is when she was tour in that part of the country, would quite, this is where she came. I mean, this is when she was influenced to put her career, which she did. She basically was destroyed when she decided to sing, to put into song, if you will, in her way, Strange Fruit, which was written by a Russian Jew. Okay? So we were going through a formation of not being us against them. It was actually happening during the civil rights movement. And then something got fractured. And if you do any following of any what you might call conspiracy theories, there's a book called Chaos you may want to read that kind of maps it out, how it was done. You may want to read that kind of maps it out, how it was done. If you've ever watched the movie with Denzel Washington, American Gangsta, it definitely diluted a lot of the truth, because if you actually knew the truth of that fucking scene, like Air America, shit like that, you'd probably start sobbing. But all of these things were put into place to fracture what certain elite saw happening. We were becoming unified. Malcolm X came back from Mecca, saw that his Muslim brothers were actually also blonde hair and blue-eyed, and that it wasn't a race, and realized that his one-eyed view of race was faulty based on trauma. And he healed from that. And 6 weeks later, or what have you, you know what happened to him. So why is this important to understand? Well, because right now, what's happening with our country, which is a beautiful country, it's so diverse, and talk about the melting pot. It should be our strength, our power, not our weakness. But yet, we have been made to think as if our diversity is actually something that we should see all each other like with, with mistrust, which is counter to 5D consciousness. And many people are like blaming each other for who voted for who. Now, again, I'm proud to say, I'm proud. I'm not proud about a lot of things, but this I'm proud of. We have a group called Starseeds Awakening. It's a support group of about 60 souls. We all voted for different people and we all get along. And no one's blaming each other for you. It's your fault. It's your fault. Okay? No one. And I keep hearing people saying, oh, so it was Kamala's laugh. I'm going to tell you something about Kamala's husband. His name is Douglas Emhoff. Huge supporter of Is Not Real. Huge supporter of that system of oppression. Huge supporter of apartheid. Huge. So we were, as a country, huge supporter of apartheid. Huge. So we were, as a country, as country people, voting. It was, again, and it got really egregious because, in my opinion, it was voting against the lesser of two evils. And I don't care what you fucking think about that. You should sit down and think about what I just said. Biden often said that he was the greatest supporter of that country. And now it's, who we have now, Cheeto-Lay. And it's insane. And I'm really begging you not to play into those hands. It wasn't because of her laugh. It wasn't because he was saying this. It wasn't because of her laugh. It wasn't because he was saying this and that and the other, or that he was promising the e-file. It was people were trying to figure out what was the lesser of two evils. You've got some people who are so corruptedly brainwashed that they actually like who they voted for, this man. Okay? And you have other people who are so brainwashed that they would vote for any woman no matter what. I remember having debates on women saying all women are better leaders. And I just had to bring up Margaret Thatcher. And I had to bring up other women in politics who had actually damaged people, their own people. So being multidimensional, it isn't, and I said this yesterday, it isn't the gender that makes you superior or beautiful or empathic or intelligent or, do you know what I mean, all-encompassing. It's your soul. And your soul isn't male or female, ultimately. It's androgynous. And so if that's true, which is male or female, ultimately, it's androgynous. And so if that's true, which it is, and we are told that we're made in the image of God, spirit, power, source, however you want to, universe, however you want to say it, then we are light. And we have preferences over these incarnations. But we should never have a preference over, in my opinion, over anything that would actually embrace supremacy of any kind. The minute, and this has been a problem in the spiritual community, I'm going to call it the New Age community, this concept of the chosen one, which we're seeing how problem in the spiritual community, I'm going to call it the New Age community, this concept of the chosen one, which we're seeing how problematic that can be, and how psychosis can wrap a whole culture around that. If a life has been imbued, inserted like a virus in a computer through the New Age movement. There are people also saying, I'm the chosen one. Oh, 5 steps on why you're chosen. So going back to Kamala's husband and herself, when she was asked, would you change anything in the policies, Biden's policy? Would you change anything in the policies, Biden's policy? She said not one thing. I remember the interview. I saw it. It wasn't like hearsay. It wasn't a clip somebody manipulated and voiced over. I heard her say that. So the problem with us, many of us all over the world, in ways that are really crushing people's souls. I mean, people are really going through in ways that are really crushing people's souls. I mean, people are really going through massive, dark, despairing depressions over this. Because there's a feeling of impotency. It feels as if we're going through a mass castration, okay? But that's not true. It's an illusion. It's a complete illusion. There's none of that. We are the 99%. 9-9. Isn't that interesting? Of all the numbers we could have been 8%. But no, 9-9. Why do I say that? It's God's number. It's God's perfect master number. I keep bringing that up again and again. But what is 9 plus 9? It's 18. Spiritual material conflict. This is what we're going through. The illusions of our race, a temporary avatar, a temporary avatar, the illusion of who we pray or how we pray to God. There's only one spirit, and there's various bodhisattvas, and there's various deva devis and things of that nature, which the Irish understood, the Native American understood, spirit of the water, spirit of the air, spirit of the tree. The Druids knew this. Is that wrong? You felt it. You who are really, truly walking in the light. You've felt the energy of a tree. You've even felt the energy of a rock. But we're not going to pray to it. We're going to connect with it. There's so much confusion. And you might think, well, no, you're the one that's confused. I mean, look at you, right? I feel that everything on this planet pulses with life. The ocean has an energetic force. I feel that everything on this planet pulses with life. The ocean has an energetic force. Water is incredibly intelligent. Water holds the memory of the ages. Water is quartz crystal liquid, is incredibly intelligent. Water holds the memory of the ages. Water is quartz crystal liquid. And water has been studied by Dr. Emoto in Japan and Vera Austin in her own studies, which I've mentioned multiple times. In capturing the frequency and the wisdom of water, the Schumann resonance, the planet Earth, this planet that many of us call Pachamama, the great Mother Earth, who we give obeisances to, who was our home for thousands, hundreds of thousands of incarnation. Schumann resonance frequency 18. Single compound number 9. Why is this 18? Single compound number 9. Why is this important? Because as long as you actually hold on to your identity as the only identity you've ever had, you will be lost. In a way, that's why sometimes actors, when they play a role, they lose themselves in it. They forget that it's just a role. It's not reality. Sometimes they go insane or they go through deep depressions when the movie wraps up and they're no longer able to play that role, that personality that they played. This bond, this fake bond of illusions that they had with fellow actors. In a way, it's the same thing. The only true soul bond you'll ever feel is a body. Some of your highest soul sisters and soul brothers will be encased in a different race. Maybe same. It doesn't matter. It's the vibration you feel that attracts you to this human being, having the human experience over every human being on the planet. And one of these truths is through the experience of your divine eternal consort, your lover, your beloved. And with that said, that's what these experiences have been there to teach us. And that's why you have these supposedly fractured realities, but they're not fractures. They're here to teach you to go beyond what you see in the mirror. People meeting each other, falling in love, who are different races, different religions, and an age chasm, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, different things are done by design to literally have you break away from society's norms and what they think is right. How many times have I done Akashic readings or hypnosis sessions where people literally were trapped by what society wanted them to do, where they denied love. One of the greatest stories really ever about that fracture isn't Romeo and Juliet, honestly, though it's a good example. It's actually Dante. Dante and his love for Beatrice, his cousin, and how he's obsessed with her, but he will never touch her. He will only see her from afar. He will see her marry another man, because that is what people did in those days. And he will see her bear children that he would have done anything to see her bear his. These sufferings, these some scars that we've all unfortunately experienced time and time again, wasn't there to punish us or to make us suffer. It was for us, to be honest, to put foot to ass and go, I am not listening to your fucking society, what you think I should be or do or say or act like. That's why the most insane shit, like a straight man falling in love with another man, because that's why the most insane shit, like a straight man falling in love with another man, because the soul bond goes beyond, shakes people up. And in 3D, brass tacks makes no sense, and yet it makes all the sense. You are not your body. You are not this avatar. Are you your car? Are you your house? Are you your toilet? Are you your car? Are you your house? Are you your toilet? No. You're experiencing all these vessels that you move through. And this is what we have to harness within ourselves. This is what we need to, once and for all, brand in our soul so we never forget again, so that we never forget who we are. The truth, the very essence that makes us so unbelievable. Watching someone die that you love isn't just an honor, but it's an incredible teacher. Because if you've ever seen someone you love, you've known them, and one moment they're here, and then you see their bodies after they're gone, say 10, 20, 30 minutes after, you realize that whatever made that body move, in other words, whatever made that body flow, an energy, a frequency, a vibration that made you feel like you were home and now it's gone, it feels almost like a mannequin. It's like if people cry over this mannequin, this avatar that is gone, right? It's no longer working. It's dead. You realize that whatever made this whole thing work is not in this room anymore. It's not in this body anymore. It's gone. And then you stare down at this thing. I mean, sure, this body that you loved from head to toe, if this was your lover, or it was your mother who bore you into the world, or your father, whatever it is. And you sit there watching in kind of shock and awe, going, my God, whatever was there is gone. And then too, if you were, in my opinion, if you're advancing yourself in your ascension path, then you realize that for me to connect with these people that once lived in that body, who I'm going to bury, cremate, whatever you're going to do with that body, right? And you honoring that body, that you have to go within, that you have to close your eyes, and then you go into a place, whatever, in the woods, however, by the beach, and they will come to you. Disembodied, but you'll feel the same frequency and energy that you once felt. And to talk about politics, which people hate in the spiritual community, which is, again, it's massively fucked up gaslighting, because you see it's the politics that have divided and conquered us. It is the politics that had made men who loved men criminalized all over the world. Okay? Oscar Wilde suffered what they did to him. Verlaine, who was a French poet, was jailed for loving Rimbaud. These societies have had the fucking balls to think that they could judge us in how we chose to love, not hate. It's okay to hate, apparently. I mean, obviously, but to love. People in the spiritual community decide that talking about politics is bullshit and that it's going to take you off your tracks. They've forgotten what we're fighting. We're fighting a spiritual war in the 3D world, controlling how we live our day-to-day life. See, that's the problem. How we pray Never forget, your forefathers that came to this country were Puritans. In other words, Huguenots. In other words, Protestant. And they came here so they wouldn't be slaughtered. It wasn't just, oh yeah, let's pray, let's find some land. But the ignorance of people is pretty wide in these religious doctrines. The various branches of this orthodox religion called Christianity, and the damage of judgment that it has always imposed on the people who followed it. You see? And again, should I remind you that 4,000 years ago, you and I prayed to things we don't even remember. 6,000 years ago, we prayed to something we don't remember. And we had rituals we don't remember. In Atlantis, we prayed, meditated, whatever the fuck we did, to things we can't recall to save our lives. If I put 100 grand on the table, you would not be able to recall it. And beyond, as star seeds, what did we, 100 grand on the table, you would not be able to recall it. And beyond, as star seeds, what did we kneel to? You see how absurd this shit is? It's absurd. People say the word Jesus, Christ, Yeshua spoke Aramaic, and Allah means the God. Jesus, Christ, Yeshua spoke Aramaic, and Allah means the God. Oh, they pray to Allah. Oh my God. Yeah, it's like saying Dieu in French. Am I awful? Because now I said God in French, Dieu. Allah means the God in Aramaic. So Jesus was saying Allah. Hello. Wow. We have been manipulated to hate each other for nothing. And it's turned into snakes of poison. These religions have fractured us to such a level that most of these religions, if not all of them, are fucking misogynistic. They hate the high priestess. They hate women. And it damages, and it has damaged our men. Racism is similar. I had a friend when I was 14 in summer school. She looked like a Liz Taylor with green eyes. Beautiful girl. She looked like, seriously, National Velvet. Kid you not. Talk about Romeo and Juliet. And she was in love with this black boy. He was 14. They were both 14. I didn't know Romeo and Juliet yet. Not yet. I was 14 myself. But I remember the despair and depression because she was in summer camp and her parents had told her she was not allowed to date or see or ever talk to that black boy. She was white. It broke her. She was going through a depression that I had never yet seen in my young life. I could tell you more stories, but why should I? See, racism just doesn't affect one person. There's a great movie and also a documentary called The Loves. The Loves. Racism and homophobia and whatever the fuck they throw has controlled and created depression that we've carried from one life to another. And as I always say, as long as you don't touch the kids, harm the kids, and you're good to go. You really are good to go. We have to get better in the way we treat animals, all sentient beings. And I think more and more of you are seeing the humanity, shall I say it, the humanity of animals. But let's start with, let's start with actually mastering our own prejudices. Okay? It's serious. Let's start with actually mastering our own prejudices. Okay? It's serious. Don't fucking excuse your father or your mother in their racist ideas. Don't excuse them. It's not okay. We need to make racism something that is very uncomfortable for all people. Not because we want to bully them, but because we will not be bullied. You see? And there are things that we are being asked to be very, and many of you are being pushed to being very, very uncomfortable about all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit is going to come at you. And if you don't handle it with integrity, even if you're unsure of how to handle it, even if you handle it with a shaking body and a shaking throat chakra, you better handle it, because if you don't, you will go through tower moments. This is not the 20th century where you could skate through life. We are being grabbed by the fucking scruff of our necks and being pushed to look at things we never wanted to look at before. And so there's nothing to fear. You have died many times in many ways. And when you are unafraid of death, you are primed to live life with full power. And when you're willing to be, and when you're willing to basically lose everything you know to gain the right things, you grow, and your freedom grows with it. I always think back of Buddha and Jesus Christ when they went into the woods, into the wilderness to meditate for 40 days and 40 nights, and the fasting and all of what they did, and how they were being attacked left and right for things, they should desire: women, wealth, power, and fame. And how through these meditations, both physical and spiritual, they fought off their ego, the false ego. And how they walked out of nature, out of the wilderness, on a massive reset of being their purest, most authentic self. We are being shown things that we should desire in society's, philosophy. You should want to be a millionaire. I still hear a lot of spiritualists going, I want to be a billionaire. Why? What are you going to do with it? Well, I'll be able to help all my friends. Okay, just your friends? Well, I'll be able to help all my friends. Okay, just your friends? You see what I'm saying? Unless you are here to help humanity, people you will never meet. And why should you have to meet them to help them anyway? Who came up with that rule, that you have to know people to help them? We see the example of trillionaires and billionaires hoarding. They have made the choice to hoard. If you are looking to amass material wealth, what is the purpose? What are you going to do with it? Will you build a better society? You won't have billions for long. Does that scare you to lose the money you've gained? Do you see what I'm saying? The minute you fucking hold on to shit, anything, you hold it as a caretaker. It's something that It's something the Native Americans understood. They couldn't fathom the idea of selling land. I've said this before. It never occurred to them that people could actually stake land and own it. How can you own something God made? The CEO of Nestle said that water was not a human right, to have water, to have access to water, with what we know water is, spiritually speaking. They want to own everything. Water. And there are movies, very dystopian movies, again and again, that talk about this shit. It's not sci-fi. It's the kind of reality these trillionaires want to create. Because they're so afraid of being common, of being pedestrian, not creative. They've just learned how to play the game and to code the machine with an algorithm that literally spits out coins in their lap without doing much else. They're not bringing anything to anyone. We, the 99%, bring everything to them. because we consume. We are the slot machine that spits gold into their lap. It's insane. And that's what I want you to realize. Like, this is why we need to build communities. And I mean, really build communities. And we need to take care of each other, from the elders to the youngest ones. And we have to unplug. And thank God so many people now are coming out saying, I wish I never have sent my kid to school. It was an indoctrination camp. I didn't know that, but now I do. Your grandparents hopefully could help you, or your parents could help you. Parents could help you raise your kids while you work. But frankly, I would say to you, buy lands together as families, communities, and become as self-sufficient as possible. That's your power. If a store was in the middle of wherever town you live in, had no one walking in to buy a fucking thing, the store would close. It would go out of business. If there was a restaurant opened and you never went, none of you went, it would close. There would be nothing to sell because no one wants to buy what you're selling. No one wants to buy what you're selling. That's what's going to be happening. The Native Americans didn't need our blankets. We needed their furs. We needed their dried meats. They taught us about corn. They didn't need us. In the beginning, we needed them. In fact, we needed them to survive. They taught us how to survive, right? What does that tell you? There was a naivete and a sweetness. And it is true. Many of the indigenous people across the world have an innate sweetness and a generosity, but they're naive. We'll never be like that. We've gone through too much traumas over these incarnations, and we will never be that naive again. We have to have compassion for ourselves. We have to, protect our loved ones. We are the priority. Our future is in our children, and we cannot allow any of these, I wouldn't say human beings, I'll call them billionaires, to have access to and being educating our children. Okay? There's no need for that anymore. We don't need them. They always needed us. But as long as we start playing the blame game, oh, I voted for Kamala, or I voted for Trump, I voted, that bullshit, like that bullshit of blaming each other for the state of the country, it took fucking decades to build us to this moment. Decades, and decades. Okay? No one's to blame. And the pressure has increased every 4 years to survive. Is the price of eggs any better for you? But if you were in a community, you would have free eggs. We're still thinking small. We're still limited in our box. We still think that the box... We're still limited in our box. We still think that the box we live in must be improved. That maybe if we repaint the inside of the walls of our box, somehow the view will be better. We're being pushed by the universe to leave the box, the comfort zone. The cage has been opened. We have a wide view of what's zone. The cage has been opened. We have a wide view of what's possible. we're also seeing the horror of what we never saw before, what our parents never saw. Some of us had parents that were smart enough who knew what was going on, but there was nothing to be done because the 99% were fully asleep. We're being ignited. We're being awakened with fire underneath our feet, so it hurts. And it's time to wake up. It's time to not panic. You've survived so many deaths. Do you know how many deaths you've had? You've had so many deaths. So why are you living under your own terms? Go back to your Native American roots. Go back to when you were in Ireland or in France or in China, when you were free, when you lived in a community. Sometimes you were the lone wolf and you come back to your tribe of people. When you lived in a community. Sometimes you were the lone wolf and you come back to your tribe of people. But you were free. No one told you anything about anything. And if they did, you'd move on. You'd move to another clan, another tribe. But you were free. And you didn't have to be afraid of any decisions you made. Because in those days, in the ancient times, before satellites and all kinds of weird shit hanging from the sky corrupted the frequency and the sounds of the universe, we were led by the spiritual compass in our heart chakra. We were led by pure intuition. And that was our superpower. And now, what we're taught through these orthodox teachings is that working on your chakras is the devil. And, psychic powers are the devil of the one who created us all. And that means that we are only fractals of those psychic powers. That working on our chakras recalibrates us. That everything we were given is perfection. Everything from our genitals for sexual pleasure, to our chakras, to our third eye opening, to our psychic powers, to our psychic healing. All of that is perfection because we are the image of the one who created us all. Those gifts weren't given to us to suppress, because some guy wearing a funny hat in a church or a temple or a mosque is telling us it's the devil's work. Every book so far was never written by a woman. These supposed holy books were not written. Holy books were not written by women. They were being written by men who despised or feared women. The day the world gives me a book written by men and women will be the day when we finally, until that day, I'm no offense, love men, I do, love good men. They're like unicorns, but I love those unicorns. Will tear us apart. Every single psyop to separate is there to make sure we never, ever create communities of power so that we're so independent from the machine that the machine collapses on its own without us doing a thing. Without us doing a thing. Not one thing. We have nothing to do but to walk away from it. Ignoring it will implode it. And we need to really, really get real about it. You're not here to evangelize other people. You're not here to convert people. You're not here to convert people from religions to New Age, to spirituality. That's not your job. Your job is to make sure that those who are awakened don't feel alone and like they're going crazy, so that they don't fucking crack up and lose their way. Our job is to pick up the star seeds who are rubbing the sleep from their eyes, going, you're okay. You're remembering now. Welcome home. That's it. We're not here to convert Mormons. And I'm going to be very politically incorrect. Very. And I don't give a fuck. I find it interesting and actually quite funny that the Mormons believe that Jesus came to Utah, apparently. But he never went to Tibet. Oh, God forbid Jesus Christ went to Tibet. Oh, no, that can't happen. Oh, God. Oh no, but he went to, he went to Joseph. He went to Utah. That's how crazy these people are to me. And some of these religions who promote the subjugation of young girls, underage girls, and you know exactly what I'm referring to. But yet everyone's pointing their finger at this other religion. You know, the other one. That other religion. Any religion whose tenement is to subjugate or control or shame a woman shouldn't be a religion you follow. Any religion that thinks that high priestesses were demonic Jezebels. I mean, again, I keep telling you, read the book or buy the movie Mists of Avalon. I mean, again, I keep telling you, read the book or buy the movie Mists of Avalon. In the ancient world, when high priestesses were from a place of heart and soul, who were the wisdom's keepers for the village or town that they, lived in, where their temple lived in. They came from a place of love. They were never there to control or subjugate. They were never there to destroy. And the corruptness of fear, if you read the book, The Mist of Avalon, you see how fear starts creeping into the temple of the high priestesses and how they're afraid of being annihilated by the new religion, as they call it. Creeping into the temple of the high priestesses and how they're afraid of being annihilated by the new religion, as they called it, the new religion, the Catholic religion. Were they wrong? No. They weren't wrong. They were absolutely right. Their instincts were saying that what was rising, what was oppressing the ancient ways was corrupt, and actually it was evil. It was evil. There's the history of the Catholic system is fraught with evil, in my opinion. And pretty much all these religions, to be honest. Spirituality is remembering who you are. It's coming back directly from yourself, your soul, to source, the one of 1,000 names, the one who created us all. It's to remember all of it without the middleman. And it's always a middleman. Do we really need those rituals? Do we really need to keep reading the same book that's been edited? Those books? Some of these books are so corrupt, it's fucking frightening. I can't even believe people take it seriously. We have so many other books that miraculously survived in spite of the attempt to destroy all ancient works. Alexandria, the great library, one of the great losses was during a fire. The second was Octavius coming in to conquer Cleopatra. And then the last one was around 400 AD. A great movie, Agora, with Hypatia, who's mentioned there. But what I'm trying to say to you is that a great movie, Agora, with Hypatia, who's mentioned there. But what I'm trying to say to you is that emperors and kings, their whole agenda has always been to destroy ancient knowledge, to reset history, to control the masses through the history they wrote. Not true. history, not true ancient wisdom. And they did it to confirm their hold on the country, the people they had. That's true. That's how it works. That's true. That's how it works. So meditation scares the clergy. It scares all three of these religions are scared by meditation, ultimately. Because once you start meditating, you are free. And you can communicate to high beings of light. With the right teachers, you can learn the difference between corrupted downloads and connections with beings of light. There are beings of light who are of love, and there are beings that are on the other side of the veils. They're on the other side of the veils. They're not of love. And it's kind of a test of your discernment. Because if you believe in everything that you connect with on the other side of the veils, then you need some training. This is a spiritual war. Make no mistake, none of this is really happening in the way you think. And to kidnap your thought forms, to kidnap the way you feel about yourself and the way you feel about the world, to put you in, to keep you in that box of mental fear and hate and separation from your brothers and sisters who are embodied in different avatars is the name of the game. How do you think you control 8 fucking billion people? How do you think you can control 100,000 people when it's just you and 5 others? It's a magic trick. It's censorship. It's making us say grape instead of rape. It's making us dilute, distort words. Words that have power, words that are evocative, words that create huge emotions in whoever listens to the words. Why do you think they changed the frequency to 440 hertz? Why? Why do you think the Rife machine was destroyed? A frequency machine that saved people's lives on a cellular level. Why? On a cellular level. Why? There's a lot of corruption. And many of you are starting to realize that your food, your water, the big C. Many of you are starting to realize that your food, your water, the big C fundraisers is all a fucking hustle. Wash and repeat. What we do in this timeline, this incarnation that you have chosen, this timeline that you despair over, why was I born now? Why couldn't I have been born 50 years from now? Why couldn't I have been born 100 years before? All of that despairing. This is a life that demands action from you. 150 years ago, you had the most important life you've ever had. This is a life that demands action from you. 150 years ago, you might have been a farmer, right? With your wife or a farmer's wife. And you did relatively nothing. And many incarnations, you did absolutely nothing. Maybe you were foot soldier, died on a battlefield, not even knowing why you were on the battlefield to die in the first place, not really understanding it. You probably couldn't even read. Mundane lives. This is the one that will mundane lives. This is the one that will absolutely either free you or confirm that you are still and will be still longer. This is the life you were born to live. Not the past, not the future, because this life will determine your future incarnations. This is the life. Okay? So this is the place. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And you have to do exactly what some of the real, true healers are telling you to do. Work on your chakras, meditate every day, pranayama, do breathing exercise, connect with nature, talk to God, talk to art, whatever the fuck you believe in. And then determine, is this what I still believe in now? Is what I believe in good for me? Does it feel good to me? Okay, no? Okay, then keep searching for your truth. It will find you. It is waiting for you. What you seek is seeking you. I love that sentence. I love that saying. Because it's true. But you have to have courage. Because it's true. But you have to have courage. And you have to be willing to look at what scares you. And you have to be willing to look at what is preventing you from your growth. You don't split hairs over minutia. What is the minutia? Well, I really believe that maybe Jesus was alive or Buddha was alive, but I don't understand why the religion got so twisted. And why it doesn't matter why it got twisted. I kind of told you why it got twisted anyway. Any religion has been co-opted. The New Age, in a sense, is a religion that got kidnapped. But actually, that's not really true, in my opinion. It began kidnapped. But actually, that's not really true, in my opinion. It began from a place of toxicity, the New Age movement, because of the sources that began. I did a whole live on Edgar Cayce and white supremacy. I don't care if you have a third eye. I don't care if you can remote view. Governments have done it with people who are psychic. I've met evil psychic people, very, very psychic. And they were evil. And they were evil as fuck. Don't confuse the ability to harness one's gifts with goodness and integrity and honor. You should know that. Don't we have the archetypes? The archetypes that were so powerful that Joseph Campbell actually did a series of interviews on Star Wars, I kid you not, with Bill Moyers. Whole series on the archetypes and the nature of good and evil. Using Star Wars. You know, Darth Vader. What fucking radicalized him? His mother's death. He went off. He went, fuck this. What fucking radicalized him? His mother's death. He went off. He went, fuck this. I'm fucking going to be evil. I'm going to be Darth Vader. But he was powerful. Right? Right? The choice is yours. Do I walk in my light, in my power? Or do I walk in the dark, in my power? And there are people, there's disembodied. This is just how it is. Right now, at least. Right now, at least. And power is very sexy. And evil power is very sexy. Look at our little Jerry E-File guy. The guy who started it all. A pedestrian-minded guy. Just a fucking fuddy-duddy guy. Handed over all that power to control the root chakras of the most powerful men on the planet. Am I wrong? Corrupted power is still sexy, so your job is not to be, and the machine wants you out of your light. It's a machine. And you should be proud and grateful that you have been given the opportunity in this incarnation to literally break the fucking loosh, the fucking mold in this type of incarnations as being the slaves to the machine. This is your last life to do this. You're no longer a slave. The minute you decided you wanted to know more and you started asking questions that made you uncomfortable and other people uncomfortable, you freed yourself. You walked out of that box. But now you're like bereft, going, where do I go? What direction? Who do I listen to? What do I do? You listen to yourself. You listen to your guides. Maybe you listen to people like me. Maybe just to say, here's an example of what you could do. Here's a suggestion. Here's some books. Here's some things you can think about, meditate on, you know? The light is within you, and the light is an umbilical cord to source, the source that created you. And they never wanted you to know that. One of the greatest books that radicalized me, and they never wanted you to know that. One of the greatest books that radicalized me, I mean, there were many, oh my God, so many, but the one that fucking flipped the switch for me at the age of 32 was The Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels. Because you see, it wasn't that I was a Christian in this incarnation. Absolutely fucking not. It was that I had been a Christian in other past incarnations, and that's some scar. Those impressions were still in me. It was that I had been a Christian in other past incarnations, and that's some scar. Those impressions were still in me. And that's what I needed to heal. You see, sometimes some of the shit you're reading isn't about you reading you now. It's about you reading your healing from other lives that you might not even know, remember, like the shadows of those past lives. They're still whispering their discontent. Isn't that interesting? How this all works. Yeah. So yeah, you know, we are the light. We are the wayfarers. We are the ones who are coming to transmute this disgusting energy that has kept us enslaved for thousands of years. It's almost over. But it's going to be, as they say, the darkest before the storm. The darkest before the storm, then the storm, confusion, the ripping up of old toxic roots, all of that being eradicated, and then the calm, the dawn. You don't even have to have faith. Just know that you are doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Keep asking questions. Keep walking towards your light. Keep speaking to God, however you want to call this entity. I don't give a fuck. Source, power, spirit, intelligence. Keep talking direct. Ask for it. Intelligence. Keep talking direct. Ask for an audience. See what happens. See what happens. I did my first session of saying, you know, I just want to go directly to, it'd been my first session in probably, I don't know how many years. And the first thing I saw was my guides sitting in meditations, all three of them hooded, beautifully hooded in soft oatmeal linens, sitting in a beautiful grotto of crystals and torch lights coming from somewhere I could not see. And they were all three sitting next to each other, cross-legged in meditation as I walked past them. And I won't share the rest because it's a personal journey that I'm having as well. But it was beautiful. And you can give that to yourself. You can experience that to yourself, but you have to control the monkey mind. And your monkey mind has been controlled by the 1% for centuries. Every time you incarnated, your monkey mind was owned. Monkey mind has been controlled by the 1% for centuries. Every time you incarnated, your monkey mind was owned. And so we are hacking. We are the hackers of this century. And you should be proud. You should actually just do what you're supposed to do, which is believe in yourself. Believe in yourself because the system, has made sure that you don't. That's why every client that has ever come to me says, the first thing they say, I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm going crazy. Yeah, because you're hacking out of the bullshit and you're going, wait, hang on, I'm nude, I'm vulnerable, What the fuck was all that about? Where the hell am I going now? What the fuck was all that about? Where the hell am I going now? Where do I lean on? It's almost like levitating in space, surrounded by the mist and clouds and nebulas, and you're like out of body and wondering what's happening here. And there's a sense maybe of fear of the unknown. And fear of the unknown is it's been weaponized against us. That's why we're always trying to bet on the sure thing instead of listening to the heart chakra. And the only way you can learn how to listen, and so many people go, I listened to my heart and look what happened to me. You weren't listening to your heart. You're lying. You listen to your ego. You listen to your gut. But you never listen to your heart, because the heart never, ever, ever lies. It's a compass, a spiritual power of truth. It never lies. Never. So when you are fear of the unknown consciousness, and you listen to your heart, and you listen to the universe speaks loud. It yells when you're not listening. It gives you tower moments. Loss of jobs, car accident, falling down the stairs, twisting your ankle, getting sick. That's how it speaks to you. It's not punishing you, saying you're not listening, you're not listening, you're not listening. And you aren't. You're not listening. Get used to having this trained fear of the unknown. It's been trained into us. And you know what I love? There are certain men in my life and certain women I've met. They don't give a fuck about life in terms of fear. They trust life. They'll like literally go, I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. Well, you don't know? No. I'm just going to see what happens. It's exciting. There are people that live their life like that, and they have the most juiciest of all lives. Juicy, colorful, dynamic, exciting. They don't have a fucking clue. They don't have a fucking clue. They'll go and take a one-way plane ticket to East Jabit and land on their feet and suddenly start a business selling a lip gloss that goes viral, whatever. And I'm not, don't laugh, because there are actually women that have done that. One product, irreverent. Where are you going? I don't know, but it's exciting. I love the view so far. That's what they mean by joie de vivre in French. It means joy of life, living. And so you need this. You need this irreverence. This, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Who judges me? Well, I'm afraid to be humiliated. What if people laugh at me? I'm sorry. Do you love their life? They're going to laugh at you? Who are they? Are they people who you respect? Are they people whose life you envy? If you envy. No? What's the problem if they laugh? You mean mediocre people are laughing at you? You're going to be humiliated by mediocre people? Are you okay? People who judge you because they're fucking frightened. They hate that you make them realize that they have a pedestrian life. And either you're changing, you're doing a pivot to have an authentic life, or maybe you're called the black sheep scapegoat because you have an authentic life. Or maybe you're called the black sheep scapegoat because you always ask the questions. And somehow, maybe for you, whoever you are out there, maybe it was beaten out of you. But mark my word, that's your superpower. You're not here to put yourself in chains to make other people comfortable. We women are very good at that. We lobotomize everything we got to make mommy, pap very good at that. We lobotomize everything we got to make mommy happy, daddy happy, the hubby happy. I don't want to outdo my girlfriends. I don't want to be better looking than them. I don't want to be smarter than my husband. I don't want to be smarter than my brother. What are you doing as a man? What are you doing as a woman? If you're not making people uncomfortable around you, you're not fucking power will be uncomfortable, and those who adore you will applaud you, and you will actually make them want to emulate you. You'll inspire the fuck out of them. And they'll tell you so because they're not jealous of you. Your courage shows them how to live. As for the rest, they can go right the fuck off. And it should be only that. That's what ascension is about. Everything I've just spoken about, from the beginning of this life to now, is what ascension is about. Everything I've just spoken about, from the beginning of this life to now, is what ascension is all about. 5D consciousness is being fearless. 5D consciousness is about not being a racist fuck. 5D consciousness is about harming no one. 5D consciousness is about being fearless in the face of the unknown. You can't fuck this life up. The only way you can fuck this life up, I remember reading that back in the 80s. I remember reading books on reincarnation. I was always reading books on reincarnation. In the 80s, I remember reading books on reincarnation. I was always reading books on reincarnation. And one of the things I noticed in patterns of people were lives led where you'd hear of a woman who had never married. She was a virgin until she died in her 80s and lived alone in a hut. And then you'd hear of another man who was afraid of love, who had maybe lost his wife and young child to a fever, and never, ever, ever recovered and lived out a lonely life with, living away as a farmer from the village and never really interacting and never coming back to life. And again, one of the themes I saw were people living alone. Just alone. Nuns alone in cells, monks afraid of their desire to make love to a woman, nuns being afraid to walk away from the supposed protections of the walls of an abbey, and on and on and on. I've read incarnations, stories after incarnation, stories of people who kept themselves in the cage. So I know for a fact many of us have had those mundane lives. And to be honest, I don't know about you, but I'd rather live fearlessly, not knowing what's going to happen in the future, and seeing how it pans out. Because to live in a closet is probably far worse. Because to live in a closet is probably far worse in my own, philosophy of how to live. I'd rather live in the wilderness than live in a closet. Something to meditate on, I think. Anyway, I'll upload this on YouTube. Follow me on YouTube at Sacred Intimacy Tarot. Sending you much love.